Welcome back. Russell Brand's denied all allegations against him, released a video on Friday denouncing aggressive media outlets in anticipation of the claims.
I've received two extremely disturbing letters, or a letter and an email, one from a mainstream media TV company, one from a newspaper, listing a litany of extremely egregious and aggressive attacks. But amidst this litany of astonishing, rather baroque attacks are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. There are witnesses whose evidence directly contradicts the narratives that these two mainstream media outlets are trying to construct, apparently in what seems to me to be a coordinated attack.
Well, the allegations against Brand are serious and, of course, potentially criminal. Is the media, though, the right place for that debate? Joining me now is Daily Mail columnist Sarah Vine, lawyer Chris Daw, KC, and associate editor of Mirror Kevin Maguire. Welcome to all of you. Sarah, you fired off a column very quickly, which I completely concurred with, which is whatever you think of Russell Brand, and you were pretty scathing about your character assessment of him, it doesn't change the fact that, like everybody in this country, in a democratic society, he should be entitled to due process.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, because we've seen this happen with lots of people where things are said, their careers are destroyed, and then, you know, turns out 5 years later they haven't done any of the stuff that they were accused of, or they've done some of it but not all of it, and it wasn't quite as bad as it looked. And I've never liked Russell Brand. I always thought he was a bit of a scumbag. You know, I wouldn't have even gotten a lift with him, let alone gone to his house or done anything with him, because it was clear. He was always... People keep saying that he was hiding in plain sight. I don't think he was at all. He was very obviously not a very nice man.
Look, I interviewed him multiple times and he was pretty open about his love of having sex with as many women as possible.
Yeah, and, you know, he was...
The question here is, has he strayed into criminality?
Well, that's the thing. And that is going to be... that is what needs to be established. He needs to have a fair hearing and not in a sort of feverish media environment with people tweeting and all this kind of stuff. That is no way to determine a person's guilt or innocence.
Well, my issue with it, Kevin, is that when you have language on social media calling the people who made the allegations victims and survivors, you are prejudging his criminal guilt. You're saying that all these allegations are true. They are victims of a crime. But we're not at that stage yet. We're at the stage still of allegation reported in media. And I do have a problem with that. I think we've got to be very careful about language that's used.
Yeah, they're alleged victims. They are his accusers. That's what they are. And I hope it does end up in court so it can all be tested and it gets due process. Now, whether it does or not, I don't know. And you mentioned earlier, fewer than 1% of reported rapes end up in a conviction. And the victims who do get their day in court have to wait more than 2 years for their justice. I think the Sunday Times, the Times, Channel 4, it's fantastic public interest, investigative journalism that is incredibly forensic. They will have gone through legal hoop after legal hoop. You know that?
Well, it's a four-year investigation. I read it with my old newspaper editor hat on, and I thought it was an exemplary investigation.
And they have given a voice to women who, for whatever reason, felt they wouldn't get anywhere with the police.
Yeah,
now, he
and
of course,
as I said
denies
earlier,
everything.
Harvey Weinstein is in prison because women went to journalists, right? So let's be clear, journalism plays a very powerful role in a lot of these cases. So I don't agree with all the press bashing. I think the Sunday Times dispatches did this very professionally and thoroughly. However, Chris, that doesn't mean to say that the allegations are true. As a lawyer, as a KC, when you're looking at the way this is all playing out, how concerned are you about Russell Brand's ability to get a fair trial?
Well, I don't think you could make this up. We're here in a television studio analysing in public the behaviour of somebody through the lens of media reporting by a different media outlet. This, for me, the problem here is not about fairness or otherwise of trials, because the reality is, I suspect, based on what I've seen, it's highly improbable that he'll face trial, at least in England. Well, for a number of reasons. One, because of the lack of credible evidence in the criminal and forensic sense of the word. Two, because of the passage of time. And three, and this is the real crux of this debate, the dangers of all of this prejudicial publicity. There has been so much publicity, which is so damaging and so negative. And if this were a live criminal investigation in law, as you know better than I do, all of you know as journalists, you couldn't say any of these things.
But it's not.
Because contempt of court would be in
place. Is it? It's not.
It's not, and that's always been the reason why papers, to this point, can continue to investigate and publish. On a slightly different legal point, a lot of people have said to me, in the case of the 16-year-old girl, and he was 30, yes, legally, no crime appears to have been committed in that particular instance, potentially grooming, I guess. I mean, there may be some laws which could pertain to that aspect. But is it right, some people are asking, that a 16-year-old girl could give consent in that situation? Is it time to look at the law of consent and raise it?
The age of consent? No, I don't.
Because she can get married at 16. Right?
Yeah, well, you can get married and join the army at 16, but and so for limited purposes.
But does that case raise any issues for you?
No, listen, I'm not going to speak about the facts of an individual allegation because I think that's the exact mistake that too many people are getting into, particularly lawyers who should know better. Okay, I can't comment on the allegations themselves, but so far as the idea that a 30-year-old man can have a consensual relationship with a 16-year-old young woman, the law says that. I don't think it's. I don't think it's a subject I know enough about, but I would say that, frankly, the age of consent is probably...
Sarah, you're not a lawyer, so you can come off
I'm not a lawyer, but I'd say it was morally pretty reprehensible.
But we're not here, I just don't think we're here to judge Russell Brand from a moral standpoint. In the sense of, he may not have the same moral compass as the rest of us, but that's not what he's being judged on.
I think
we're judging him really on whether his morals have led him to commit crimes against his women, which is what they've alleged.
This is true, but also these crimes are very, very. One of the reasons that so few rape allegations go to court is because they are very difficult to prove, aren't they?
Listen, I think the big story here that we should be talking about, and Kevin alluded to this earlier on, is women cannot get justice when they're raped in this country. Women cannot get justice if they're sexually assaulted in this country because the system doesn't have the resource to cope with even 5%.
So wouldn't that be their response to you saying this is all playing out in the media? No, isn't that why they've gone to the media?
No, well, they may have. I'm not criticising the individual women who went to the media. That's entirely.
But almost by your own admission, where else can they go if the legal system is so flawed?
You make a good point, but that's what we should be talking about. What we're talking about. No, we're not really. We're talking about Russell Brand.
I'm literally talking about it with you.
No, we are talking. I mean, we, the country, the media as a whole, have become obsessed with Russell Brand. We're not habitually talking about the flaws in our justice system and the lack of police officers.
I'll pick you up on that because we're talking about Russell Brand. He's a major celebrity. He's a Hollywood star.
So what? Why is that significant?
Well, then why?
That's the problem.
No, but
hang on.
All part of celebrity culture. Yes. That's why we're all talking about it.
But also, he's a powerful guy who's held down positions at top networks like the BBC, which are publicly funded.
He's not a Harvey Weinstein, though, is he? In terms of
we don't know, do we?
Well, no, in terms of power within the industry.
Actually, I would say Russell Brand has held a lot of responsibility.
Chris, you must accept there is a difference in the public's attention and interest if there's an allegation made, and it's an allegation against somebody who's incredibly prominent, as in somebody who lives in Leeds or Luton you've never heard of.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that person Leeds or Luton.
I know that,
but the common thread I think where we may find agreement here is if you look at this year's been Philip Schofield, Hugh Edwards, now Russell Brand, all different stories, but all massive scandals involving very big celebrity figures, news people, and so on. But the common theme is they've all been convicted in the court of public opinion and by jury of social media. And that, to me, seems to be a problem. When I ran the Daily Mirror, for example, social media didn't exist.
Hang on. Some people have been found not guilty. There are people who like Russell Brand's views and his conspiracy theories, so they say, he's a victim of another conspiracy theory.
I'm going to come to that. I'm going to come to that part of this in a different part of the show because I find that ridiculous. The idea that people are promoting this theory, a lot of high-profile people are, that somehow, because Russell Brand does this YouTube channel in which he goes down conspiracy theory routes, that he's got to be silenced. I think he's for the birds.
But I mean, the thing about, if you think about other people who have been accused, the only people who have managed to prove their innocence really properly are the ones who've got very, very, very deep pockets and who can afford...
And very good lawyers.
And very, very good lawyers. And it's very difficult for ordinary people. And to be honest, this does happen to ordinary people, doesn't it? It's not just the celebrities.
Almost always.
It does happen. Basically, if you want to ruin someone's life, accuse them of something like this. And they it happens to...
I mean, I watched Russell Brand's video, right?
It happens
like I said, I've known Russell Brand 20-odd years, right? I was trying to get him for an interview until this blew up. I watched his video and I saw a guy, I mean, he was absolutely adamant, right? I've been sent these allegations. Any suggestion it was non-consensual, I utterly refute. Now, there is some evidence that the papers have already produced and dispatches, text messages and so on, and who knows what else they've got, which I'm told by other lawyers is materially very important. because even though there's a time scale,
contemporaneous evidence, absolutely.
because it's contemporaneous. So he will be judged accordingly on that. But it's very difficult, like Sarah said. If you're Russell Brand, how do you? This is a tsunami.
I'll tell you what
sweeping
you-
over
But
you,
also-
shutting down your life, and his wife's pregnant.
Yeah.
He's on a tour.
Yeah.
He's got all this. Suddenly, it's all gone, right? He's flamed away.
I'll
And my only
tell you what
question
you
is,
do. Sorry, Piers, go ahead.
My only question really is this right that our society does this in the way that we're doing it?
No,
to
it's
people
not.
like Philip Schofield, like Hugh Edwards.
It's not right.
And like things, all in different cases.
It's not right, Piers, but it's far worse that tens and tens of thousands of women are raped in this country and hardly any media coverage about it and hardly any resource put into supporting it. That's much worse than 3 celebrities being falsely accused, if that's what's happening.
Well, no, but
that's a pinprick in terms of sexual offences and sexual violence in this country. It's an irrelevance.
And by the way,
talk about the
to
victims.
be fair, in every one of those cases, all the revelations from the newspapers may well turn out to have been completely accurate, right? So I'm not in any way trying to impugn the veracity of these revelations.
Philip Schofield and Hugh Edwards were not accused of illegality, so I think it's a different case, of a completely different level with Brand. But do you want to live in a country where people who want to make accusations, charges, allegations because they feel they've suffered some terrible crime can't speak out? And they're gagged and we're not allowed to discuss it? No, I mean, that's
There's a difference between victims speaking out and the media coordinating a campaign designed to get us talking about this one individual. Very successful.
Or, and I'll come to Sarah here, or not to get people talking, but to hold somebody powerful to account.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is, this is the result of Me Too. Me Too's done a lot of really good things. It's stopped powerful, nasty men from taking advantage of people who are in their thrall.
Has it really?
I think it has. Yeah,
In the real world?
Yeah, I think it has. I think certainly
on.
in my industry, in newspapers, it's, you're much less likely to have any trouble.
Maybe
these
less
days.
likely, but it's not stopped.
No, but it is.
I think it's
a
dramatically
huge progress.
changed
It is huge
behaviour.
progress. I really think it has.
Definitely, yeah.
I think it really, really has changed behaviour. I think that the issue here is that these allegations relate to 10 years ago, OK? I'm not, it's very difficult with the passage of time to prove any of this kind of stuff. I think that if women really, I think they should come forward, and they should come forward to the police, and they should do it as quickly as they can. And I know it's difficult because I know it's a very emotional thing, and I know all sorts of things. But the most important thing is to come forward at every stage. And doing what's happening now probably won't get them any justice.
OK, I've got to leave it there. Thank you very much, my pack. I appreciate it. It's complicated, this stuff. These are big issues. I think you raise a very good point, Chris. I do think the bigger story is exactly what you just identified, which is most people, most women, the vast majority that make allegations, they don't have any justice, even when the evidence is overwhelming. Thank you, all three of you. I appreciate it.